Welcome to the bonus episode with Loree Durade. How do you say your last name?
It's actually Rowdy. My call sign
Rowdy.
my call sign in the Navy was Rowdy because of my last
Rowdy.
name. Yep,
Rowdy. Okay, I love
you
that.
got it.
Welcome to the bonus episode. If you haven't listened to the full episode, head over to alprofessionalcoaching.com/podcast or Apple Podcast, Podbean, Google Chromecast. We're also on. Anywhere that you can find video, YouTube as well, at the Outstanding Women Leaders. But enough about me. We have a lot of connections. Somehow we're connected on LinkedIn. And when I see joy and soaring into it, those are two of my buzzwords. So here we are.
Awesome. I know it was so funny. We were checking in about that. It's, after you've been around for a while and you look at all your LinkedIn connections, sometimes it's like, how do I get that person? But as fellow coaches and having been through two fantastic programs, CTI, Coactive Training Institute, and Positive Intelligence, it's really nice to have that in common.
Yeah, so we did not slide into each other's LinkedIn trying to sell each other something. We organically found each other on LinkedIn.
Yes,
the old-fashioned way.
Yes, exactly.
What year did you go to CTI?
Oh gosh, I started in 2019. So I got a couple of in-person trainings done before everything went online. But I did, I think out of the 5 foundational courses, I did 2 of them in person and then 3 on or 3 in person and 2 online, and then all certification was online. So and I was really impressed with how well they pivoted and made it work online. At first I thought there's no way they're going to be able to do this, but they figured it out and it actually worked out really, really well. What was your experience?
Yeah, I got my very first class in February of 2020. Little did I know, we're walking around the streets of New York, that it was going to be one of my last times. And I had Helen House.
As
one of my leaders. And Victoria, who I think is fabulous, whose last Italian name escapes me at the moment. But they had talked about leadership. And so I signed up for leadership after that first session. And then COVID hit. Yeah, as you know, it was on pause for 2 years. But the one I signed up with, Edwin Vega and Karen House were leading. And so I had to spend every month for an hour and a half with Edwin and Karen for the first 10 months of the pandemic, which was really cool. And I went ahead and did my own leadership quest. And so I'm not actually, the job I wanted to become a better leader for went away. And what better way? It was my second business I started, but I had not started a business when it was pandemic. So that was fun little journey there.
For sure. I find it fascinating that so many amazing things that come into our lives, they come in completely not at the time that we wanted them to or expected them to, and yet things work out really nicely. So, and look at you now doing this. This is fantastic. And would you have been doing this, before with the other job? Who knows?
Yeah, I started this in February of 2020. So once again, not aware that the world was going to shut down and everyone was going to get a podcast. It was just my time to check out trying having a podcast. It's actually a really fun way for me to learn through other coaches. The first 2 seasons, I had a ton of people on that were coaching in all these different modalities. So I feel like I went to flavors of different coaching schools as well.
Very cool. Nice.
And are you still doing work with Positive Intelligence?
I am. So I do still coach clients. I haven't run a program in a couple months, like a group program, going through it together, a pod. But I did end up doing my certification in Positive Intelligence. And I find that, with my one-on-one clients, with my executive coaching clients, I bring in a lot of the concepts, even if we're not doing necessarily the structured PQ program. I still talk a lot about, PQ reps and the judge and, a lot of the other concepts, saboteurs, just things that really resonated with me. And they resonate with everyone. I think everyone can relate to having that type of judge, especially judging ourselves, but even judging others and judging situations. People get it. It makes a lot of sense. And I think, even just thinking about it and having discussions about it is a great way to bring awareness to how often we do it in our own lives and how often we're making that choice. Do we want to, keep judging ourselves and keeping our hand on that hot stove, or do we want to take it off and try to find something more positive or find empathy for somebody else, or all the other things that positive intelligence trained us to do.
And what I find fascinating about what you do, my biggest inner critic for my judge is you've got this one woman show that you've written. Before COVID hit, I was doing stand-up in the East Village and people were laughing at me and feeling really nice. It took me like 37 years to get the nerve to do stand-up. When I was a high school teacher, I always said the jokes are for me, the notes are for you. As a coach, the jokes are sometimes for both of us, but mostly for me.
That's so funny.
Yeah. How did you like get on the stage and start telling your one woman story?
You know, I did theater in high school and college, even a little bit of community theater, but really it was something that just never seemed to be something that I could pursue professionally. Like it never even really crossed my mind. I had wanted to in college, but then I basically chickened out. So and instead went into the Navy. So, I mean, it was a great, I can't regret my decision at all because I've had an amazing experience and I'm really grateful that I got to do what I did. But I'd always had an affinity for telling stories and performing, even when I was in business school. Like my favorite part of business school was the annual musical that we did that parodied business school. So like I always just really enjoyed writing, especially and performing as well. But a few years ago, I was in a writing group and practiced, writing stories that were mostly personal narrative, memoir kind of stories. And anything that had to do with the Navy seemed to get a lot of got more attention, and people really liked it because it was unusual. Like there aren't a lot of women flying on an aircraft carrier. And so being able to talk about what that experience was like was of interest to people. And so I thought, well, it might be interesting to pull these stories together in a way that is entertaining, not necessarily doing like a TED Talk kind of talk, but more like actually acting, being myself, as a 27-year-old about to go deploy to the Persian Gulf. And so that's what I did. I pulled a bunch of these stories together, and also it was a historical cruise because it was the first deployment on the West Coast that had women in combat squadrons. So there were certainly some challenges. And I wanted to be able to share those stories as well as, what is it like to live on an aircraft carrier for 6 months? So it's been really fun to perform the show and to share these stories with people that don't really know or haven't had exposure to the military or to naval aviation. And I've, it's just fun to be able to share the challenges and then also the wonderful things about it. I hope that I'm inspiring more young people to join the naval aviation community because it's an incredible career and it's very fulfilling. It's hard, but it's also, I think it's important. So, yeah.
I love that you started that story with, so I chickened out and joined the Navy instead.
I know. I chickened out and decided to land on an aircraft carrier. Well, it's this is the funny thing, Katie. It's like, there's physical fear, which definitely there were times when I was fine, when I was afraid, but there's that fear that's in our heads of, fear of failing and fear of not being enough or fear of what people are going to say. And like when I was younger, I'm very close with my parents. And when I was younger, I did not want to do anything to upset them. And they were not fans of me going off and, becoming an actor. So I didn't want to upset them. And so I didn't do it. And so, yeah, it's funny because it's a different kind of fear, but it still feels as scary a lot of times.
Yeah, well, people would rather have death than get on stage. So it is a different kind of fear. And I had that fear. I could not get on stage and audition for anything. I would have loved to have been in plays. So I sat in the pit and played the little band clarinet. I've always been in that leader behind place on the stage. There's something very scary about a bunch of adults staring at you on a stage. Something about teenagers was way easier. South side of Chicago, teenagers staring back at me, not a problem.
Wow.
Put some adults in there, and now all of a sudden things are shifting. Yeah. And my parents also did not want me to be an actor. Well, my mom, she's always used to tell me to save it for Oprah when I was being dramatic. And when I bought my child actor book, that's awesome. She's like, you're not going to be a child actor. Save it for Oprah. When you get famous, maybe she'll have you on her show when you can tell her about it.
Awesome. All right.
I like to think my mom should have said, maybe you should just be the next Oprah.
Oh, absolutely. Right. That's so funny. You know, what you just said reminded me of, I think it's Jerry Seinfeld, who said, most people at a funeral would rather be in the casket than giving the eulogy, which I thought was hilarious and so true. There is that fear of being up in front of people and having all that attention on you. And we just assume like a lot of judgment happening in people's minds about you, and that fear of rejection. And it's definitely scary. It can be scary.
I think I was in that space when I walked into my first CTI class. And you know, you've been through a divorce, you've been through a lot of things. I had been through all of those things as well, and found myself back in a very similar situation. I'm like, how am I working with 3 people? Only this time I don't own the business, but they're still bullying me. They still hate me. They're still, you know, I'll go into lunch while Katie sits there in this open office and doesn't get an invite to lunch. It's those things feel way worse, way scarier than they really need to be. Learning to dance on the stage, I think, is something that CTI gave me a little bit of back. That you know, that little kid was happy to be on a stage, was not afraid to entertain adults. As an only child, I was only entertaining adults. It wasn't until I became one that I was like, whoa, this is a lot scarier than I realized.
Yeah, it's amazing, like the conditioning that we get, you know, as we get older, and all the judgments and you know, assumptions or expectations that get put on us by other people based on what they want or need in their lives. And we just take those on sometimes, instead of really staying true to that little kid, you know, who definitely had a perspective on the world and what excited them and what they wanted to do in life. And so I liked that part of positive intelligence, that exercise we did when I think it's actually around empathy, but it was getting back in touch with that child, you know, who we were as kids, and what was, you know, the adjective that we used to describe ourselves as a child, and how can we bring some more of that energy into our lives as adults. So it's a great program.
The photo I always use for that is such a classic, like who I am. I have a sombrero on, I have maracas in my hand, I have a cozy sweater, I have pink shoes on. Like nothing has changed, only I was almost bald, because at 3 I was just starting to get hair. I think the universe was like, she's gonna have plenty of hair, we will give it to her when she turns 3
eventually.
But I'm just like, I'm the life of the party. And then right in front of me is a Mr. T notebook. I was always a detective, even though I couldn't write at 3. I still had the notebook. I love that Mr. T was on it. People know, but that picture so sums up, I have not changed. And I know that in a world where we're all trying to be better version of ourselves, that 3-year-old Katie was pretty spot on.
I agree. Mine, it's so funny. My picture has similar attributes to it. I was in my pink ballet tutu with little sequins on it. And I had fashioned my blanket to make it a veil so that it looked like I was Maid Marian from Robin Hood. But the best part about the picture was that I was striking this pose. Like I had my hand on my hip and I was looking at the camera like I was Beyonce, like I am the queen. And when I look at that, I just feel like, wow, I had so much confidence in whatever character this was I was playing at, 8 years old. And the creativity too is what really spoke to me. So it was fun to get back in touch with that part of myself. And I think the show that I'm doing now is, certainly paying tribute to that part of me as well.
I imagine you're learning a lot about yourself in this one woman show as well.
Yes, I am. It's funny because I actually, I premiered it 2 years ago. And then after I performed it at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival 23 times last August. And after doing it 23 times, the show used to be more about my own personal growth. And I realized I'm really tired of talking about myself and like a lot of the things that happened. And I wanted to make the show into more of more about something bigger than myself. So really about the whole integration and how it was for us women as a group on the Lincoln, not only my story. So that, yes, I definitely have learned a lot. Also doing the show that many times, every day for an hour, I'm up, delivering the show and performing the show. Like it was such a confidence boost. I feel like I can get up and, talk to anyone, anywhere and feel comfortable doing it. And I definitely did not feel like that even, 5-10 years ago. So I think that practice and that work and just, having it feel more familiar has been very helpful and has helped me with my own public speaking career and being able to share those stories. So it's been, yeah, it's definitely been a personal and professional growth opportunity.
And when you head over to the main episode, you're going to hear all about her experience on the Lincoln and being the first woman. As someone who has a degree in history class or history, in my history classes in college, there were no women. Didn't have any women professors. There were no women in my classes that graduated. And I never really thought about that, by the way. It wasn't until I had someone else on the podcast who also has a degree in history. And she's like, really? I had so many female professors. And I had X, Y. I'm like, yeah, I graduated college in 2005 and still didn't have that, representation, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it didn't necessarily make me feel like I had to prove myself, but I had professors who said, oh, good luck on the south side of Chicago. I'd love to eat popcorn and watch you try to do that. Or the professor before the history teacher in high school who said, I don't think you're going to play tennis in college. I'm like, well, I'm going to get a scholarship, Division II. So, all right, I get it. Division I is probably not there, but D2 and money is happening for me.
Yeah.
It's interesting how we can get boxed in or people can see what they want to see. Yeah. I imagine that it was a pretty big leap for you to say, not only am I going to join the Navy, but also I'm going to do this thing that no one has gotten to do before.
Yeah. And, the funny thing is that when I joined the Navy, women were not allowed to fly in combat yet. So when I joined the Navy, my expectation was that I was going to be an instructor pilot, do that for a few years and then maybe get out and go to the airlines. It wasn't, there really wasn't a career path for me as a female naval aviator when I joined, but it was only a few years after I joined that the exclusion was lifted. And then the whole thing opened up for all of us women. And, one of the women I went through is a 3-star admiral now, so finally, but I don't think she would have been able to had the, combat exclusion not been lifted. So it's kind of funny again, I did not go into the Navy with the plan of being the first anything. I went into the Navy because I wanted to serve my country. I wanted to do something challenging and I wanted to travel. And so all those things seemed to be met, by going into flight school. And then just by coincidence, really, and timing, lucky timing, I became part of that first wave. So you just never know what will happen.
I imagine there was some work ethic too, not just timing, that also landed that for you.
For sure. Yeah.
Make sure you head over and listen to our main episode, and you're not going to want to miss out on all of her stories. She has an MBA from the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. She's got a major in entrepreneurial management, a BA in mathematics. Loree is so much more than just soaring into joy. She's also joy itself. So head on over and make sure you tune in.